Hey folks, it's the Blind Guy here. Happy New Year, and we're going to ring in 2026 with a brand new series where we take two movies and we pit them together in the octagon and we find out which is actually the best movie. And on this episode, we are doing Jaws from 1975 and Jurassic Park from 1993. I have actually built an app that lets us run through there and give them scores. It'll be a lot of fun. Before we jump over to the octagon, though, a quick word from our sponsors. Our first one is my book, Epica's Lily, which is a fantasy novel available on Amazon now, free on Kindle Unlimited. This is a hardcover version. I think it's a lot of fun. I tried to keep it simple and just make it more character and dialogue driven. You guys know I love that, so I think it's pretty decent in that regard. Check it out. And then the other sponsor is a partnership with the band Shunned at a Funeral. And so they are a Christian frontier hard rock folky band that I think is pretty awesome and pretty great. I help them with things. And so you can see here we have 3 albums. They have a Christmas album that's out on everything except Spotify right now called Bethlehem. Should be out on Spotify soon. And then their album Rome is already on all platforms. It's been out for a few months. And then they have a new album called Magdala coming up soon in a few weeks on all your platforms where you check out music. They're not quite like any other Christian rock band, so definitely check them out. It also helps me out. So, without further ado, let's jump over to the octagon and figure out which of these two movies is actually the best. See you in just a second. Alrighty, here we are in the octagon. So I created this little program here that allows us to go down and keep score, and then at the end, we can click to reveal the scores, and we'll find out which of the two movies is actually the best, in my humble opinion. So let's walk through these. The first category we have is directing. So obviously this is a little bit different with these two movies because they have the same director, Steven Spielberg. And I'm going to go with, I know that Jaws had a lot of issues, which I think probably should have been foreseen by a director, filming in the sea and everything like that. And I know that Jurassic Park had some unforeseen weather affect it, but I'm going to go with Jaws having a directing score of 3 because I think that they should have known that filming it actually on the open ocean was going to cause issues, and it actually hurts the film a little bit. So I'm going to give that a 3. Jurassic Park, I think, has got some major story issues, which I think a director should have seen, but overall, it's probably a better directed film, so I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. So you can see now those scores are up here. They're tallied, so we're going to hide those. And we'll do the big reveal at the end. Okay. Story and structure. So with Jaws, you have... It's done in 2 parts. The part on the island, and then the part when they're in the boat. And I personally like the scenes on the island better than the ones on the boat. I think it drags on a little bit for the boat scenes. I think if the movie had done more like 2/3 on the island and then 1/3 in the boat, that would have been better. But I think it's 50-50, if not even a majority of the film, it takes place on the boat. So I'm not a huge fan of that. The structure is very simple. I mean, the MacGuffin in the movie is the shark. And so you have a shark terrorizing an island, and then they go out on a boat to go and try and find it. And they do, and they kill it. Sorry, spoiler alert, but if you haven't seen Jaws by now, you should. So I'm going to give it a 4. I think there may have been a little bit better structuring to it. Like I said, maybe if more of it was on the island. But it's not bad. It is certainly not bad, and it's certainly above average. Okay, story and structure. So Jurassic Park's story is very good. It's very creative. Michael Crichton gets the credit for that. The structure is not bad. Again, it's nothing fancy. It's very straightforward. Come to an island, the dinosaurs get out, chaos ensues. But it's got some major, major continuity issues in it that I think really hurt it. So the introducing of the animals getting sick, which was a plot point in the book that was then explained later, it is never explained in the movie. So why introduce it? It just shows up as this thing, all the animals are sick. We never know why. The second issue is you have the lysine contingency, which was a way to kill all the dinosaurs if they ever got off the island. It's kind of a made-up thing. It's not something that you could actually do, but it is introduced, and then they just say, no, that's out of the question. Well, why is that out of the question? If that would actually solve the problem, why not do it? And if you're not going to explain why you're not going to do it, then don't introduce it as something into the movie. And then it's got some major movie mistakes in it that they have to know about, and they just didn't care enough. So this isn't like in Jaws where the compressed air wouldn't actually blow up. That's okay. That's not a huge deal because the audience believes it, and it keeps you going. This is like the Ford Explorer's thrown up over the edge of a cliff that wasn't there in like 2 scenes earlier. And so the T-Rex just came from over there. There was a goat standing there. And now all of a sudden, because we need there to be a cliff, we introduce a cliff, and the T-Rex just throws the Ford Explorer over the edge of the cliff. I don't like that in movies. I think that is almost insulting to your audience. You have to find a way to make the movie interesting and compelling without just randomly, magically introducing things like that. So I think Jaws has got some major issues. No, I'm sorry, Jurassic Park has got some major issues when it comes to that. So I'm going to give it a 2 when it comes to the structure because they had to know that was there. They had to change the set, and they still made us watch it anyways. Cinematography and visual language. So I think that this one is strong with Jaws because you have a famous shot in Jaws, the dolly zoom on the island when the Alex Kittner is killed on his little yellow raft. That is one of the most amazing shots I have ever seen in a movie. Is you watch it, Chief is sitting on the beach, and then as people walk by, the camera then jumps back and forth between the ocean, his view, and then the view from the ocean. And it's seamlessly done just as people walk by. And then we get a shot of the boy being eaten by the shark, but it's up over the top of a bunch of kids playing football, so it's out there like 50 yards. And I think it makes it look even more real, more realistic at that point. And then we get that shot, that dolly zoom, into Chief Brody's face. As they are pushing in with the camera, they are also changing the focus so that he doesn't move, but everything around him seems to like elongate and have like an elongation and a compression feel at the same time. It's a beautiful shot. I believe it was first done in Vertigo by Alfred Hitchcock. But I think Jaws has made it even more famous because I think that was the first time it was done like that on somebody's face. So I've got to give Jaws a 5 for cinematography just because anytime you change the landscape of Hollywood like that, you got to have a 5, right? Okay, so Jurassic Park is pretty great as well. I mean, you've got the shots of the T-Rex attacking the 2 explorers. You have the famous Velociraptor scene in the kitchen. You feel like you're there. It all makes logical sense. I don't think it has any shots in it that necessarily changed anything, so I'm going to give it a 4. It's very good, but it's just not quite to that shot that Jaws did. Music and sound design. So, of course, in Jaws, you have the famous half note, semitone. Da-dun. It's simple, but you know exactly what movie it's talking about. The sound design seems to be fine. I never noticed anything wonky about it. So I'll give it a 4. Jurassic Park is pretty famous for its sound because they use a lot of animal sounds to mimic the dinosaur sounds. Since we really don't know what dinosaurs sounded like, or if they made any sound at all, we think they did. It's pretty awesome. They were able to give the T-Rex its bellowing call. The Velociraptors have a very interesting, almost like a pig-like bird sound. Like, it's very cool. Very cool in that regard. So the music, I could take it or leave it. It's pretty typical John Williams. Feels like you're... I don't know. His stuff's pretty bright for me. Doesn't use a lot of minor stuff, but it's still a 5 just because of the sound design. We then have the villain threat effectiveness. Very strong in Jaws. Extremely strong. I've talked to many people that felt scared of swimming in ocean, swimming in lakes, swimming in rivers, just because you had this shark. There's something about being in the water and having your feet and legs and body down in the water, but your head's out of the water. So you have no idea what's coming up below or what's looking at you down there. It's like the most vulnerable state humans can be in. If you take the first scene with where Chrissy goes swimming, it's at night. That is one of the greatest scenes, in my opinion, ever done. And so, yeah, the shark in Jaws is a 5. The dinosaurs, they're good. They're good. The velociraptors especially are creepy, but they don't feel like villains. And I think that's a little bit of a mistake. It seems like the movie's doing some PR work for dinosaurs, which is kind of weird since they're not around. But so when the dinosaurs are around, they're a threat. But then there's times where they're not around and it doesn't seem like it's really that menacing. And so I don't know. I feel like the shark is a better villain. So we'll give the dinosaurs a 3. I think they're pretty average. They look great. They sound great. But apart from the velociraptors in the kitchen, I just don't think they give that villain feel. Character work. Okay, so which one's got the best characters? So Jaws is interesting in the fact that it does not have a lot of female cast. On the boat, you have no females, and mainly in the movie, you have Chrissy at the beginning who gets munched, and then you have is it Eleanor Brody, Chief Brody's wife, on the island. She's great, but not a lot of female characters. But the characters are really strong. You have the dynamic between Richard Dreyfuss and Robert Shaw, who I guess did not actually like each other in real life, and so that helps their dynamic in the movie. And then you have Chief Brody, of course, who's afraid of water and lives on an island. But it's only an island if you look at it from the water. And as he says in the movie. And then they're just fun. They're fun characters. They're believable. They're older than they usually would be in a movie like that. That's one thing that Jaws 2 really suffered from, is it used a younger cast. And they ended up feeling like a slasher movie instead of a classic thriller horror movie. So yeah, I'm going to go with the characters. They're very good. I'm going to go with the 4 for Jaws. And then Jurassic Park, they're not bad, but they're a little more over the top, shall we say. I don't like Dennis Nedry as a character. I realize he's in the book, but the movie, he becomes a bit too much of a comedic relief. I don't find Samuel L. Jackson's character very believable. You know, the lawyer, yeah, they're just a little too stereotypical at times. They're a little too over the top. Ian Malcolm's fun. He's funny. Jeff Goldblum's character, but he's still not extremely believable. And then it's like they borrowed something from Jaws, where now instead of it's somebody who doesn't like the water has to be out in the water, it's now somebody who doesn't like kids has to have a character arc by taking care of 2 kids. The kids are fine. Yeah, I don't know. I'd say this is very average, so we'll give it a 3. Oh, and back up here with the just came to my mind with the where I gave it a 2 for the story. Another problem is you've got the Velociraptors trying to get into the computer room, and Lex is on the computer. Alan and Ellie are holding the door shut. There's a shotgun on the floor that would save everybody. And what is Tim doing? He's watching Lex on the computer instead of going over, picking up the shotgun and handing it to Alan or Ellie to blast the Velociraptor. It's like one of the adults wouldn't say, "Hey Tim, grab that for me." Like it just doesn't. It suspends disbelief too much. So and then the fact that a 12-year-old girl would know the Unix system that their own computer programmer would not have known. I just don't like it. I don't like that kind of stuff. I feel like it's a little lazy and they could have done better. Okay, so enough venting on that. I'll get off my soapbox. But pacing and tension. Okay, so when Jaws hits the tension, it hits very hard. Chrissy in the water in the opening scene. The Kittner scene where he's on the raft. The use of the barrels to show you whenever the shark's around, fantastic. That's all excellent. It's not the best I've ever seen, so I'm going to give it a 4, but it is up there. It's very good. Jurassic Park, also similar idea. Instead of the barrels in the water, because it's Spielberg, he likes to recycle some of his tactics, which is understandable. But the ringlets in the water whenever the T-Rex is approaching, the velociraptors in the kitchen, that's all excellent. I think they're pretty similar on this, so I'm going to give them both 4s. Okay, let's go back down to practical effects and visual effects. So there's no CGI in Jaws. And this is where Jaws gets a bad rap. And some of it's deserved, some of it's not. Some of the effects in Jaws are really good. And it's the effects where they really hold back on showing the shark. So that shot of the Kittner boy being attacked by the shark over the top of the kids playing football is amazing. If you watch the shark's movement in that shot, it looks like he just got munched by a shark. That is an excellent scene. Is there a little bit too much blood? Probably, but still, there's a shock value there that's very good. Now, the Jaws gets into problems when it starts showing the shark too much, and that's because you have to realize they were filming this on the open ocean, and it was a very bold endeavor that really came back to bite them a bit. Because when the shark comes out of the water at Chief Brody right before the famous "you're going to need a bigger boat" line, it looks pretty good there. You could convince me that's a real shark. When it's just going by the boat, it looks pretty decent. And then there's some shots of real sharks. When it jumps up on top of the boat and knocks it down, it looks absolutely terrible at that point. No shark would ever do that. I can't believe they didn't think of some other reason, some other way to accomplish that setup without having the shark jump on the boat. So just for that one scene, I feel like that's the main scene that people really dog it for, and deservedly so. I guess the scene where he throws the compressed air into its mouth isn't great either. So I'm going to give it a 3. For the time period, they were so bold, they were so ambitious. It didn't turn out amazing, but it's not quite as bad as everybody says. So I'm going to give it a 3. Pretty average. Jurassic Park, groundbreaking stuff. Still looks good today. Looks better than a lot of CGI done today, and it was done in the early 90s, which just blows your mind. A mixture of CGI and practical effects. I'm just trying to think if there's any effects I don't think look very good. Yeah, I just can't think of anything that doesn't look... Okay, we'll go with a 5. It really changed movies forever. I think it deserves a 5 for that. Rewatchability. They're both strong here. I'm just trying to think of whenever they come on, which one I would be more likely to sit and watch all the way through. Jaws, I'm going to give it a 4 on rewatchability. Every time it's on, I feel like I watch it. Jurassic Park, pretty average here. If it was on, I'd probably watch it, but I might look for something else. So I'm going to give it a 3. Cultural impact and legacy, they're both excellent in these. That's why they're pretty much in this episode. Jaws was the first ever summer blockbuster, which changed movies forever. And then some of the, this is tough. You got the dolly shot in it. I'm going to give Jaws a 5. And then Jurassic Park, mainly it's because of the visual effects that had such an impact. But they weren't the first CGI effects with, of course, with The Abyss, and then Terminator 2. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 4, because it wasn't the first to do it, but it definitely is impactful. So there we go. Let's take a look and see which ones wins. So Jaws has a score of 41 out of 50, I believe. Jurassic Park has a score of 37. So there you go. I believe that definitively proves that Jaws is the better movie of the two. Let's hop on out of the octagon and I'll give you our closing arguments. Well, that officially settles it. According to a blind guy's view, Jaws is the better movie over Jurassic Park. That's actually what I've thought. It was closer than I expected, though. once I went through the criteria, I was like, oh boy, this is going to be closer than I thought. But I just think Jaws is a better movie. I had a friend that would always argue that Jurassic Park was better. That's one reason I picked these two movies. And they're very similar, in caliber. So I think it's a good choice. I'm thinking about doing Raiders of the Lost Ark and Last Crusade maybe coming up. Let me know in the comments if there's two that you'd like to see, or if it's like music albums or pretty much anything you can think of. We'll put them up. We'll put them in the octagon. I can change that formatting. If you want to see some different criteria, just let me know. But that's the first versus video we've ever done. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next episode of A Blind Guy's View. Hope you like and subscribe to the video. I'm getting close to being monetized, so please, please, please help me out. And I'll see you on the next episode. Laters on the Menjay.
Laters on the Menjay.
Night, stories written, pages bright by his books and joy.